If someone completely fresh to Dead by Daylight came up to me and asked, who should I pick from the free killers to learn the game better, I would answer the Wraith.
Crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you. There's a souvenir for you. And one for you. I'll show you who I am and what I am. Look, he's all eaten away. Huh? How do you like that, eh?
So many of my favorite killer abilities in this game are completely non-lethal. Ghostface's stalking, Singularity's cameras, Sadako's manifestations, Clown's jars, they all revolve around supplementing your basic attack rather than supplying an alternative to it. All these years later, I still consider the Wraith the archetypical example of this kind of killer. He's the first pure stealth killer in the entire game, and he did a perfect job. At any point during the trial, and at the beginning automatically, you can turn completely invisible. No terror radius, no red stain, nothing. Just a bit of visual blur is what's left when you're close to people and moving. You have to deal with effectively announcing your presence every time, given you ring a goddamn bell whenever you do anything. But when you do this, you're usually so up close and personal that it's not really a problem. Seriously, the cloak is so disorienting. It gives such little information to survivors that you can just kind of appear in front of them and go,
"Hello, you. I'm Guru Larry."
The Wraith also has easy access to my favorite status buff in the entire game, Undetectable. As I said earlier, all it does is get rid of your terror radius and your red stain. It's simple, but you can use this to be completely dastardly. To support this, another wrinkle is the sheer speed this character can reach. It's not an insane level of movement like Blade or Wesker, but it is genuinely a huge difference. When invisible, you can't attack anything, but you do become a car. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I use this ability in chase all the goddamn time. Sure, it makes a ton of noise, but it also lets you get away with such complete bullshit. I can sprint ahead of survivors aiming for a specific vault and completely body block them. You can just wedge people into where a pallet is. If you play Wraith, you know these awkward moments of, oh, okay, when someone is just kinda stuck in your grasp and you have to just sit there before you uncloak and bonk them. My favorite thing about Wraith's ability is not either of those things though. It is actually this. If you are invisible, and you stand completely and utterly still, you are genuinely impossible to see. How powerful is this if you can't move while using it? Well, come with me. Walk through the gallery of people panicking while I just kinda stand there. Oh yes, classic. Magnifique. One of the greats. You get it. It's the funniest way to feel like you totally outdid somebody. Like, I just confirmed a down by standing there. Menacingly. The bell is loud. You know this, I know this, the bell is loud. But what if I told you that it's not really a big deal? The sound of you cloaking is separate from the sound of you ringing the bell. And the sound of the whoosh that goes out over everything is a ginormous noise that swaths over a good chunk of the map. But the thing is, it's non-directional. It's just a warning with no info attached. The bell has directional audio. You can tell where it is when you hear it. But the radius is a little harder to hear because it's a little smaller than the actual cloaking noise. So no, I would not call the bell that huge a deal breaker. It just makes the jump scares you inflict on close-up people all the more fun. Also, I mean, there is this little window where you're in the real world, but you have that little speed boost as well. So that means you can seriously mess someone up who's already in a tizzy. Being an M1 killer, as the kids call them, you are relying on your basic attack to do any sort of damage. This is why I think Wraith is the perfect, easy to pick up, hard to master killer. You are going to be put through a total crash course with this man. You need to learn how to juke people, how to deal with pallets, how to catch people swerving, how to mind game people in general, how to play killer in its entirety, without the help of an actually damaging move to do it for you. There is no complete easy mode killers. I just think Wraith teaches you about the game way more and way easier than any of the other options. Time for Wraith's perks. I gotta admit, these things are kind of, they've aged a little poorly. They were fine when the game came out and things were small, but nowadays they have this distinct, out-of-place feeling to them. But hey, I'm a use every part of the bird type gal. I can find a use for these things.
Now, who would still eat this?
Have you seen Luigi?
Predator is very weird. I don't even entirely understand how it works. From what I know, it takes the long paper trail of scratch marks that survivors make when they run and condenses it, so it's theoretically easier to see at the cost of not being much of a tell when you're far away in a chase. I guess I can see in my footage moments that I get messed up by this, but otherwise, in the thick of it, I kind of felt zero difference in my ability to search for survivors based on their scratch marks. I think using this perk is up to preference then. A lot of people shit on it, and I get why. It's not really an upgrade. But I think if someone wants to be able to have a less consistent but more obvious scratch mark hunt, that's their right. It's in the Constitution.
Fetch me their soul!
Bloodhound's use is way more obvious, at least to me. Tracking players by their blood is something I tend to do a lot without thinking. Some maps make it trivial, and some maps make it next to impossible. This perk makes survivors bleed Tabasco instead of Schmucker's Jam. This is easier to track, and while people tend to run a lot and their scratch marks betray them way before their blood spurts would, I still think it's effective. It works in a lot of different scenarios. Not super overt scenarios, but scenarios. It helps you find people on the ground, it helps you differentiate between scratch mark trails to go after injured people. Those are kind of the two big ones, to be honest. But hey, you know, that's pretty alright. And it makes hemorrhage games very funny and red.
Here you go. Oh, you want some fucking FOV? Now we're fucking master of FOV, huh?
Shadowborn is... Hold up. Okay, wait. Okay, so Shadowborn is a perk that I would wager has the most release day stink to it. I get the idea, be able to have an easier time seeing survivors in general out of your periphery, but also gain a much more intense angle where people can blind you from. Okay, but here's the issue. There are people who get genuinely motion sick in games if their FOV is too low. This is a perk that becomes mandatory if you have motion sickness of that sort. That is insane to me. That would be like forcing players who are hard of hearing to pick a perk instead of having a visual indicator for terror radius. Oh wait, it was like that for years. Jesus fucking Christ. This is unacceptable, I'm sorry. Nobody should have to give up a whole perk slot because they get motion sick. That's fucked up. But as it stands now, I think this is a good perk actually. It's great for Ghostface and like stuff where you need to actually keep an eye on people to have your power to work. Just add an FOV slider though. Okay, time to eat add-ons for breakfast open wide.
Watch out for snakes.
Who said that?
The Serpent is a pretty odd one to start with, but honestly none of the Wraith's brown add-ons are very normal, so buckle in everybody. Serpent lets you uncloak automatically when doing an action like breaking a pallet or kicking a generator. It just whisks you into the real world whenever you do anything arduous. It doesn't give you the bonuses of speed that regular uncloaking does, at least I don't recognize it doing that. But hey, uncloaking is kinda sluggish, so being able to kick something and be ready to throw down is very nice. There is a later add-on that helps with this, but I don't know, it's good on its own too, if not a little awkward. The Hound is an add-on from a genre of add-ons that are basically great value versions of existing killer signature perks. In this case, you get to have a little bit of Bloodhound in you. When invisible, Frank's Red Hot is now what blood is. All the things I said about Bloodhound also apply to this. I can't really add much more. Go ahead and follow all that Tapatio.
Oh shit! A ghost!
The ghost lets you retain a bit of undetectability when uncloaking, basically giving you a window where you're not giving off evil rays, but you're still able to hit people. I'm not gonna say this has ever given me incredible value, but I think it's still pretty fun. It's a weird little stealth upgrade. I kinda enjoy towing around with it from time to time.
Mr. Beast!
The Beast is one of those challenge add-on type things. In this case, it makes your invisibility not actually make you undetectable. So you have no visible form, but people can hear exactly where you are at any given moment. I am too much of a wimp who relies on stealth to hit survivors, so I do not really use this, even for money. But a strange thing that this kind of manufactures is a way to let the Wraith run terror radius builds. I'm all for that esoteric shit. Like, make someone's day by being a complete weirdo. I am entirely behind you on this.
Bonesaw is ready to die hard. Rocket launch my head off, brother.
Boner. It's kind of funny to inflict on people. Your bell is still very audible, but it becomes non-directional, so you effectively have a complete paranoia machine. No one will know where you are, just that you are generally uncloaking right now. It can lead to some fun mind games, and it also means that survivors don't know which direction to run at times when you show up. The blink runes are for making your cloak faster. Not uncloak, but just generally becoming invisible. Becoming invisible is already way faster than uncloaking, but hey, think of it this way. Instead of being for making ambushes easier, this is for saving loads of time you would have been spending slapping around your bell. I don't know the exact math, but if you are uncloaking and cloaking aggressively, then you are bound to be able to do it with way less downtime if you use this thing. Oh baby. Okay, so the Wraith is pretty fast when he's invisible, but this makes him faster? God, if you told me that this was the deal, I would be suspicious, because that sounds too good to be true. But it's real. You can fucking zoom when you're invisible. Using even one of these, let alone stacking two. You can't use three, that's illegal. Anywho, I think the joys of being extremely fast as Wraith are plain to see, so enjoy this clip of me completely bamboozling myself with my own walk speed.
Huh?
Alright, who's ready to go find this spy?
Right behind you.
Swift Hunt. This is the one for uncloaking. I assume this is a big favorite among Wraith players because it makes ambushing people an absolute breeze. Usually you kind of have to let your prey leave a little bit while you get dressed in your reality clothes, but now you can just kind of show up. It's great. I definitely think there are more interesting add-ons for Wraith out there, but I can't say no to the classics. Trust me, I've tried.
I can't see!
What's the matter?
I got my eyes closed.
Okay, so Blind Warrior Mud and Blind Warrior White do very different things. That is cool and confusing. Mostly cool. A few Wraith add-ons do this, actually. Anywho, this gives me the first opportunity I can to talk about blindness as a status effect. Blindness gives you very little feedback when it's doing its thing. So if you play Killer and almost no Survivor, you might assume that this is just a little bit annoying and not much else. Okay, but trust me, play a bit of Survivor until you come into contact with some blindness effects and be ready for hell. Aura reading is one of the most important things a Survivor can have in their arsenal. So many perks of theirs rely on being able to see things through walls. With Blind Warrior Mud, you hit them once out of a cloak and boom, they cannot see magic anymore. Wraith can apply this effect really easily, because the window for what is considered a surprise attack out of a cloak in this game is ridiculously huge. Just smack someone and boom, a whole minute of this shit. If you ever doubt how hard you fucked up a Survivor's Day using blind, check out the post-game list and just count the overreading perks, especially count the windows of opportunities. Okay, so this is a general speed increase for kicking generators and destroying walls and pallets, but only when you're invisible. I mean, I guess that sounds pretty good. I don't know, maybe I should try around with it on because it seems underwhelming.
Huh? Huh?
This is my favorite Wraith add-on. It is no contest. There are plenty of ways to fuck a Wraith up if you know that they are using this thing, but goodness gracious, I have never laughed aloud as hard as during this game of Dead by Daylight. Side note, I had two very weird games when I used this thing. One where I was up against the Navy goddamn SEALs and they weren't having any of my bullshit. And the other time, I accepted defeat when the gates were open and started breaking pallets for points. The thing is, if it is endgame collapse, survivors really like to stall. It just happens. I don't know if it's because they want to rub it in my face or if they just want to give me blood points for hitting them out, but people like to hang out right up against the walls of freedom. And if someone was already being a bit of a dingle in the game and you don't give them the satisfaction of being there to watch them leave, they have a mental breakdown. Jesus Christ! I don't want to bring up player behavior a lot because I think it's exhausting, and I don't know what people's intentions are, but I mean, man, I just want to know what's going on in this guy's big, beautiful head. Okay, where were we? Right, add-ons. Blind Warrior White is a very common killer add-on archetype. The good old-fashioned hemorrhage mangle combo meal. It is the absolute only add-on Wraith can use that messes with the ability for survivors to heal, and it messes with it hard. You really don't have to stretch yourself that far to hit those surprise attacks, so go ahead and put this on if you want to basically have a sloppy butcher, but only most of the time. All-Seeing Blood is probably my pick for most fucked up and evil Wraith add-on. Sure, there are more actively obnoxious add-ons that you can put on the bell, but this is the only one that makes me go, yes, all according to plan.
Next time, Gadget, I promise I'll get you.
Just being able to outright see nearby survivors through walls is fucked up. Sure, it's only when you're invisible that this happens, but you can really mind game folks by just knowing where they're headed and not having to guess. 8 meters doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it really is. Cock Clapper is another noise-affecting add-on like Boner. But while Boner gives the survivors a general feeling of anxiety, Cock gives them a fucking heart attack. This makes your bell completely and utterly silent. No strings attached. You don't appear slower, you don't move slower in invisibility, there is ostensibly zero downside, you just don't make noise when you use the bell. Okay, technically there's still the whoosh, but the whoosh is nothing. The whoosh doesn't tell you shit. People legitimately will just have no clue you are there until it is way too late. Just suddenly, boom, there's a terror radius right next to you. Good luck, kid. This turns Wraith from a highs and lows ambush killer to a complete and utter stealth man who can pick people off without even giving the slightest tell when they're about to show up. All-Seeing Spirit is kind of disjointed from the rest of the things the Wraith does, but it is still extremely good. I have a perk combo I love, Hex, Ruin, and Surveillance, which together basically makes all generators that are touched and then let go highlight in yellow. It's so fun and makes me feel like a total tactician. I love it. This add-on does the thing I like about this combo. Basically, when you are invisible, you see generator progress in red. Sure, it's a little bit of a massive anxiety spike to see there are more gens being repaired than you can reasonably stop, but hey, I mean, knowing where a survivor is while undetectable from across the map is very good. That's Wraith! Hope you liked this silly video. On an unrelated note, I wish sound mods in Dead by Daylight were not considered cheating because this guy is ripe with potential.